Hi, everybody. I hope you're doing great. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about Jeskai Manabases, which is actually in the video that you're about to see, which is still kind of this video. I recorded the video about the Manabases and then realized that not everybody probably follows me on Facebook and Twitter and all these various things. And so I wanted to let you guys know that I 5-0'd a Magic Online competitive league with a very similar list to this. The difference was this was a Crumble to Dust, and this was also a Crumble to Dust, and I'm off Crumble to Dust. But I'll talk about that in just a moment. Outside of that, this was essentially the list that I ran. I've been really happy with Logic Knot. For a while, I was testing Quellers instead of Clicks, but I'm really happy to have Vendilion Click back. Overall, I really like the list. I'm still a bit undecided on the mana base, and mainly like how many lands I should be running, whether not I want to run the full playset of Colonnades or not. But I talk a little bit more about that in the second part of this video. I just wanted to let you guys know that I 5-0'd. For those of you that also enjoyed playing the deck and are looking for people who might have had some results with it, I'm actually taking it to a Grand Prix trial this weekend. And so I kind of have a very rough list here, of which I'm addressing like the deck as a whole, not just 60 cards with a 15 card sideboard, but the complete 75. So I'll be narrowing this down over the next couple of days and keeping you guys up to date with that. But last thing I'll say about this was is Crumble to Dust. What did I do with it? Here we go. So the problem with Crumble to Dust is just that the main problem really is about the sideboard. The only deck it's really truly good against is Tron, which isn't a great matchup anyway, so it feels bad to waste two sideboard slots on a card that might not even be lights out, depending upon a couple of different things. I mean, it's still possible that your opponent gets off an early Karn or something like that, and there's nothing, and you're not able to counter it. Really good Tron players can actually fetch a Ghost Quarter to play around your Crumble to Dust. They just shoot one of their Tron pieces, which isn't ideal, but it keeps you from exiling the rest of their Tron pieces since your Crumble to Dust fizzles, and their deck is just full of ways and cantrips to find the missing Tron piece. So it's while if you resolve it, it can be really good. You first have to counter what is likely going to be their if they have Tron on 3, you're first going to have to counter that, and then hope that they haven't played around it and you can successfully Crumble to Dust the Tron piece. But mainly it's just that's the only deck it's really good against. Now, I played it because I'd already gone through this whole thought exercise months ago and decided no, the plan is just going to be against Tron is just going to be Geist and negates and stuff like that, and that's just the best that we're going to be able to do. And Geist is even better now that people aren't playing red-green Tron, they're playing like green-white and green-black, because now there's no Pyroclasm, so our matchup got a little bit better there. But the one card that we do have that is also good against other decks being played is Aven Mind Sensor. So against the other big mana decks, which is namely Amulet, Bloom, which I guess is not Bloom anymore, just Amulet Titan, I guess, since Summer Bloom has been banned. That's been popping up frequently on Magic Online. Still a powerful deck, it turns out. And then also like Titan Shift or Red-Green Valakut. I had a Crumble to Dust in the tournament that I went 5-0 in, and it sat in my hand the whole time because I was never able to cast it against Valakut because they never do the Valakut. Now, there are times when I've dabbled with Crumble in which I've been able to, and it's been fine, but there's a very real chance against those decks they just don't draw Valakut, and your Crumble's not going to be any good. And then obviously against like the Amulet Titan decks, it's just really too slow. So Aven Mind Sensor does work in all of those 3 matchups. So unlike Crumble, we're not just bringing it in for one deck. It is lights out against the Amulet Titan deck, and it's completely serviceable against the Titan Shift deck. They can't find lands with Primeval Titan. Shuts off the way that they look for their lands. Shuts off Scape Shift. It's okay against Tron. It can be a little slow because they can assemble Tron. They can find all the Tron pieces before this comes into play, but they still search for additional Tron pieces. There's a lot of searching in that deck. They also have the value land, Sanctum of Ugin, I think it is, or maybe it's not Sanctum of Ugin. Anyway, the land that says like if they cast a colorless spell with converted mana cost 6 or 7 or higher or something like that, then they can search for another colorless card, in which case they just get another big fatty. So this can kind of sort of stop that little mini chain. Anyway, it's serviceable against Tron. And then against, obviously, I think I already talked about Amulet. Yeah, so it really shuts off the Amulet deck. It's good against Valakut. It's good against Tron. So this is just really like the one hate card that I'm bringing, that I have for like all of these big mana strategies. It's just Aemon Mind Sensor and then Geist and Counter Magic. Yeah, so that's really about it. I'm going to be really working on the 75, trying to refine things, trying to guess what I might see, get to final numbers of things like Dispels and Negates and Ruined Halos and all of that kind of stuff. So anyway, one of the things I'm trying to do is also see if we can make the mana base even better, and I talk about that in this next section. So see you guys there. Thanks for watching. Hi everybody, I hope you're doing awesome. My name is Nathan, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Jeskai Manabases. What got me started on this subject was I have a GPT coming up, and I don't actually really, I'm not even sure what format the GP is going to be in. It's just that I don't have too many large events that are conveniently near me to prepare for and play, and so I don't know how large the GPT will be, but it's definitely gonna, it's gonna be a higher level competition event than say FNM. And so since I'm going, I wanted to, use it as an opportunity to improve the deck and practice and just kind of have fun, like improving the deck and skill and preparing for a tournament and going to it with the intention of trying to do well. So one of the things that I'm going to do is, and let me jump over to it really quick, is take the list that I just recently 5-0'd competitive Modern League with and just kind of finalize it, if you will, from the perspective of a complete 75. And part of that process is going to be addressing the mana base. For a long time, I've just been running like the standard 4 Flooded Strand, 4 Scalding Tarn, 23 or 24 lands, and just going from there. And while I haven't yet satisfied the debate on do I want to run 23 or 24 lands, if it's 24 lands, it's just the 4th Colonnade. That's really all it is. And I mean, the benefits are more colonnades. You have a slightly better end game because you just essentially have more threats, because now you have more threats in your lands. But the 4th tap land doesn't come at a completely non-zero cost, and I'm trying the percentages between 23 and 24 and how frequently we hit our 3 drops really aren't that much different. And so I want to try to effectively run 24 by running 4 Serum Visions, and free up a slot for another spell. Maybe it's greedy. But anyway, so part of this process of, addressing the complete 75, which you see here, this is sort of my rough cut. I know it's more than 75 cards, but my plan is to now look at some of the cards I know I'm going to cut. I'm really probably not going to run Electrolyze, but I'm going to look at, all of the decks that I think I may face, and kind of what I think their prevalence might be, what my matchup strength is, and then just really kind of decide what the numbers are that I want in the 75, and then try to move things into the sideboard and see how it all fits. So there's a process that I'm going to follow. But like I said, part of this is addressing the mana base. And so I kind of got to thinking, what is there improvements to be made here? And one of the things that I wanted to do was maybe run a 9th fetch land. I'm not sure that I'm going to do that, but the reason is it makes Logic Knot a little bit better. There's just more likelihood that you're going to be able to Logic Knot on turn 2, exiling 1 land as the Delve's cost. So that's kind of cool. And then also we gain a little bit more protection from Blood Moon by running additional fetches. I don't know that Blood Moon's going to be a real serious issue there, but being able to improve your mana base's resilience to Blood Moon is obviously there's nothing wrong with doing that, and being aware of it for the times that you do face Blood Moon. So one of the things I was thinking about is, okay, well, what do our fetch lands do as far as protecting us? And so I started thinking about trying to look at it from a hypergeometric distribution perspective. And what I found out is if this would be the mana base that I normally would have run. And so we're going to look at basics and a way to get basics. And what we have here for blue is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 ways to get basic islands. So what is the probability that we're going to be able to do that within the first 3 turns? So if you look here, this population 60 size means there's 60 cards in the deck. The number of successes in the population is our effective, not our basic islands, but ways to get a basic island or be a basic island. Sample size is 9, and that basically means that you're going to start off with 7 cards, and then on turns 2 and 3, draw 2 additional cards. So the sample size, the total cards we're going to see is 9. And how many successes do we want to find in that? And that gives us an 83% chance to find an island, which is great. We really want to find blue mana. But if we go and take a look at our white sources, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We really only have 5 ways to get a basic island into play. And obviously blue is going to be our most important color. But white is pretty important too, considering that we want to cast Geist of Saint Traft, and also considering that a lot of times the ways that you deal with Blood Moon are through a Wear Tear or a Celestial Purge, and we really want the ability to cast that. Let's say we can't counter the Blood Moon, we're just planning to fetch around it. We may draw into one of those spells later. We want the ability to cast it. So the thing about only having 5 is that we only have a 56% chance to draw in the first 3 turns a way to get a white source, which is a little less ideal. And so now you might say, well, it's more important to prioritize blue because you need to get double blue into play. And I thought about that too. I thought, okay, well, let's say that we leave all this the same, and what are the chances we're going to find 2 ways to get blue in the top, in the first 3 turns, and it drops down to 46%, so less than half the time that's going to happen. And so it kind of really begs the question, what's more important, getting 2 islands into play or getting an island and a plains into play? And I would probably say getting an island and a plains in play is more important. Now, ideally, obviously, you want 2 islands and a plains, or in a perfect world, 3 islands and a plains. But I think at least getting the first color of each of your 2 main colors is probably the most important, followed by the second island, and then obviously the third. So what can we do about that? Well, like I said, I've been looking at 9 fetches, and I'm not sure about that because when you look at 9 fetches, and I'll walk you guys through it, but the way that it sort of shifts the mana base around makes it feel like a mana base that I'm not sure that I want to play. But one thing that we can do is just go ahead and address the fetches that we do have. And that's what I've done here. So it's really, by default, it's really easy to just say, okay, I'm going to run 4 Tarns, 4 Strands, be done with it. And that's what I've been doing for a long time. It's good enough. It is good enough, but maybe it could be better. So what does this look like if we do, okay, actually, so this is the mana base. Let me jump back a second. This is the mana base I normally run. This is the mana base that Kyle Bogamus has been playing in his Jeskai Flash deck. He's playing the 4 full colonnades, which, I mean, it's hard to argue with that. I'm definitely being a little bit unconventional by shaving. That's essentially kind of what I'm doing. And obviously, because I play Geist, one of these Glacial Fortresses has to become an Iganjo Castle. But this is essentially what I'm cutting this, and I'm changing this to an Iganjo Castle. But one of the things that when I saw this that I liked is, obviously I like the 2 Glacial Fortresses. I've been, in some of my mana bases, I've been running a Glacial Fortress Sulfurfall split, but I really love the check lands, I believe is what they're called. I've also run a couple Hallowed Fountains at one point in time. If this was the mana base that I was running with 2 basic islands, this would have been a Hallowed Fountain probably. But I liked the 3 islands. I like the idea of, if you can get it all into play, being able to cast Cryptic Command. I like the idea of increasing the chances of drawing into an island. And I like the idea of also being able to have a Blood Moon proof mana base that could even flashback a Logic Knot, which does happen. I have Logic Knotted on turn 2 and then come back later in the game and flash that same Logic Knot back for like 6. It's an awesome spell. But this list essentially still has the same issues that the other one does. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This one has 11 ways to get blue, and again only has the 5 ways to get white. So you have a ton of ways to get blue, but if you're trying to get that, planes into play under a Blood Moon, this is going to be a little bit harder to do that. And so if we look here, if we go to this one, this is still 8 fetches, not the 9, but this swaps out 2 of the Scalding Tarns for 2 of the Arid Mesas. So what does that look like? Well, for blue sources, we now have 1, 2, 3, 4. Different than this one is it also adds the 3rd island, which I'm going to test. But we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 ways to get blue mana under a Blood Moon. Which 10 was 83%. 9 is 79.4, which you could very easily round to 80. I think that's still a very respectable number. And for me, it's worth it to drop, let's see, what is it exactly? 83, just basically 83. 830, 794. So for me, it is worth it to drop the percentage of getting blue by 3.5% in order to bring our probability of getting a white into play up to 70%. Because in this scenario with the Arid Mesas, now to get planes, you have 1, 2. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So just those 2 additional successes in the sample in the population, going from 5 to 7, takes it from what is it? It was 46. Maybe it's kind of strange. What is 4? I could have swore I saw 46 on something earlier. It doesn't really change. I'm getting my numbers confused. That was for 2. So really what it is that if you have 5, you have a 56% chance to get the white, which is just barely over half the time. And so what I like is basically here, I like going from 83 to 79.5, 3.5%. You'd have to play a lot of games for that really to matter, but it brings up our ability to get white by a lot. It brings up our ability to find a basic planes from 56 to 70%. So we're sacrificing 3.5% in one place to gain 14% in another, and I think that is a smart decision. So I can't think, at least here, just by making that fetch land change, I can't think of a huge downside. Because we still end up with a lot of ways to just find the basic island, like I said. Now, as far as the fetch, let's just look, or the 9th fetch, let's look at that. So what I would do in that case is I would go ahead and probably just add another Scalding Tarn and recapture that extra 3.5%. But if we want to run 24 lands, I don't want it to be all the. If I'm going to run 24, I just want to go ahead and run the other Colonnade. So then now we're at 25 lands, so we have to start cutting. Well, I don't really want to cut the Aganjo Castle because I play Geist. So then I'd have to cut this Glacial Fortress, which I don't really feel good about either because I really like those. But now I'm actually cutting a legitimate dual land. And I know that the fetch land is technically a dual land, but now we end up with 9 fetches, and we have this many targets here. So we have 9 fetch lands, 9 targets. That's probably fine. But I think the mana base would be a little bit more painful. Not much. I mean, you don't have the Glacial Fortress anymore. But like I said, I really do like the Glacial Fortress, and it really actually does matter a lot. You know, a lot of times, like against Burn, you're able to get a Steam Vents on turn 1 and then play that nice come into play untapped for free land. So anyway, so that's kind of what I'm thinking with the mana base. Happy to hear your guys' thoughts on you know, what you would do or what you like. The one I'll probably go with, I think, is going to be, I will probably do this. It's either going to be this or it's going to be the Glacial Fortress swapped with the other Arid Mesa. All right, guys, that's it for today. I'm going to make a couple other videos at least this week. I will keep you guys up to date on what I decide with this. You know, I threw some in here just sort of for completeness sake, but I know I'm not going to run the 4 Ancestral Visions in the sideboard. I know these are going to go in the sideboard, and I know I'm not going to run 4. Things I know I'm not going to already run. I know I'm not going to run that. I know I'm probably not going to run that because I'm just going to have these Is It Static Casters in the sideboard. So that leaves some other decisions to be made about 5 cards here. Like one of them might be this Restoration Angel. I really want to run 3 Restoration Angels. And sometimes I want to do this. I want to run 3 Restos and 1 Cryptic, but then I also really like having the Cryptic against, you know, a good number of decks right now. So what I like about this is you just have more ways to kill your opponent. You have another way to protect Geist of St. Traft that actually contributes to your board and kills them faster, which I think is better than tapping their team, drawing a card, and attacking with Geist. But I feel like I've gotten a lot of value out of Cryptic Command lately, so obviously it does make our mana base a little bit harder. So so what the way I'm gonna try to make these decisions too is to take a more serious look at the meta and figure out, like, is Restoration Angel or Cryptic Command going to be more useful? You know, how difficult is it going to be to punch Geist through? Am I going to value the, you know, counter draw effect versus a bunch of mid-range decks that can kill Restoration Angel more than I'm going to value the Restoration Angel itself? Because if you flash Geist in, if you flash Restoration Angel in to save Geist of St. Traft and they just kill it, at that point you might be better at just tapping their team and drawing a card. So yeah, I'm gonna take all that into consideration and try my best to come up with a really, you know, tight, comprehensive 75. All right, see you guys soon.